Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, fellow humans of the world, let's talk ComfyUI. That was my YouTube bro impersonation, and I think it went pretty well. If you are wondering where I'm getting this information from, it's at docs.comfy.org/API reference/cloud. Now, if that's all you need, go on, get out of here. Go build something cool. For those that want to wait, there's more info coming. Because ComfyUI is in such active development, this list of steps might change over time in the future, but the basic lifecycle is going to be this. You use the front end of ComfyUI to iterate, test, perfect your workflow. You want to get it to the point where no manual intervention is needed. And then once you have that worked out, step number 2 is to download the API version of your prompt, and then open it up in a text editor and find the nodes that you need or that you are going to, in the future, programmatically change inputs for, and add some kind of easily findable text replacement. Number 3 is in your program, you have to load that JSON file, and then you have to actually do the text replacement. Once you've got that done, you are ready to send your workflow to ComfyUI's prompt endpoint, and then as it's running, you pull the history endpoint with your prompt ID to wait for a completion. Once the workflow is actually completed, you want to get your output. So sometimes you'll receive that output as part of the history polling. When it's done, it can give you that output. You can grab it right there. But if you need to reference it later, or if you just don't get it in that history call, you can send out another call to the view endpoint with the file name and the subfolder that your output lives at, and then get all of that information returned as bytes. So like an image comes as bytes. And you can save that to your file system. You can send it off to another server somewhere. Do whatever you want. So it's not too difficult, but there are some caveats, some nuances. So let's go ahead and explore some of those with examples. Step number 1, use ComfyUI frontend to perfect a workflow. I'm going to go to templates. I'm going to grab the Z image turbo. And I'm going to change this default prompt. I'm tired of just always having it be beautiful women. Why does it always have to be that? I know exactly why. It's because there's way too many horny dudes using and making AI. My dudes, before you push a line of code, take a drink of water or something. Cold shower. I don't know. Calm it down. Let's do a cute red panda in a tree. It's perfect. Step 2, download the API version. Open it up in a text editor. Decide on what you want your text replacement to be. I'm going to use the double brackets and prompt_text. But I need to find the text node. And since when you download the workflow JSON as an API file, it takes this exact text string. This is what I want to replace, so this is what I'm going to search for. I'm going to change this to the string that I know I'll be able to find and replace later. Save the file, and then fire up the program or the text editor that you're going to be using. For this example, I'm just going to use a little app that lets me send API requests and do some fast iteration and testing. Okay, so this is a program called Bruno. It's open source, and it's basically a Postman clone. I used to use Postman a lot a few years ago, and then they changed to be a cloud only or cloud native, I can't remember which one, workflow, and that meant that I had to start storing all my API calls up in the cloud, and I didn't like that. I wanted an entirely local solution. So that's where Bruno comes in. Let's go ahead and do our step 3 in our program, which is Bruno. We're going to load our workflow JSON, and then we're going to find all of our little text replacement strings and replace them with our new prompts. So I have this endpoint made. Is going to localhost, and then the port that ComfyUI starts on, and then the prompt endpoint /prompt. So this is a post call, and in the body of this request, we want to make sure that we have this basic JSON already set out. I frequently forget to do this prompt bit, and the API does not like that. So let me go ahead and copy the workflow JSON contents. Scroll to the top. Just going to select it all, copy it, back to Bruno, and then paste. So a couple things syntax-wise to take note. Make sure your curly braces are set. So the prompt should be another object with a curly brace. It should go all the way down with your other curly brace. And then you should have your JSON object opening and closing braces. Now let me go ahead and search for my prompt string. Let's go ahead and change our prompt. This time I want an elephant drinking water. And because our workflow is so simple, it just takes one input prompt. Let's go ahead and send it. Okay, so it comes back with a prompt ID, no node errors. So while this is running, you can see in the ComfyUI front end, you can kind of keep track of what it's doing. You can see the prompt executed in 12 seconds. However, it did not update the image. But if you look in the assets here, you'll see your new output. Okay, now this is something I want to highlight here. Because when you save your JSON workflow, it hard codes a bunch of values that are normally taken care of in the workflow itself. You can run into issues where values aren't changing when you expect them to. So like the seed value is set here in ComfyUI to be randomized. It's supposed to change every time you hit the run button. However, in your API, this JSON doesn't benefit from ComfyUI's front-end code. So if we look for the seed value here, it's 8168 is the ending. And if I send this, you'll see that our prompt executed in 0 seconds. We didn't get any new output, but we did get a new prompt ID. So if you're sending requests and they seem to be successful, but you're not getting any new output, it could be because your seed value isn't changing. This is something you would also have to dynamically find and replace in your program. So for instance, if you wanted to do this programmatically, you could use your double curly brace and seed, and then go ahead and dynamically find that, update the seed. If you want to increment it or if you want to do it randomly, dealer's choice. But that is something to keep in mind, that the API will process your prompt, but it won't actually really do anything. It's not really an issue if you're changing your prompt text, because that's always generating a new thing. But if you're trying to make different iterations, pressing the send button multiple times with an API request does not do anything, or at least may not do what you are expecting it to do. Okay, let me show you how step 5 is supposed to work, polling the history endpoint. So I'm here in my send prompt endpoint. I've set a new text prompt, and I'm going to go ahead and send this to the server. Now I'm going to have to work a little bit quickly to showcase this, but hopefully it'll work. So I'm going to send this. I'm going to copy this prompt ID that we got. I'm going to go to the history endpoint, which is a get call at the history endpoint. I'm going to replace the prompt ID, and I'm going to send that. And you can see that this hasn't finished processing, and I get this empty response here. And now we can see in our assets that we've generated the new image. So if I try the history endpoint again, I get a whole bunch of information. I get the workflow that I sent in, I get the prompt, but what's most important, if we do a search here for outputs, we can see that our output was an image. It has a file name. We didn't put it in a subfolder, but if we did, you would see it there. We have our success status, all this kind of metadata here that we might want. And I'm going to hide the task manager. I wanted to see the model loading progress, which is great. All this is great. So this brings us to step 7. We didn't actually get the raw image bytes in this output. So what we need to do is we need to make another call, and we want to take this file name, copy it. So we have a get call that goes to the view endpoint, and then we have some URL parameters that we're going to pass in. So Bruno kind of makes it easy. We have this params section here. We can type in the name, type in the subfolder. We don't actually have a subfolder right now. And I need to go ahead and paste in the file name that we had earlier. And you can see it has built the URL for me, which is nice. Now, if I go ahead and call this, you're going to see in our response our actual image. So in your program, if you're writing in Python or whatever, you'll get a whole series of bytes. You'll get an actual, like the image, the binary data. And that's the data you want to save. So you can save that to disk, you can display it to user in a front end dashboard that you've made, whatever. All told, that is the basic lifecycle of running the API. So now that we have a lot of the basics out of the way, let's do another more complicated, but hopefully quicker example. This is part of a little project I've been working on to develop 3D assets. It helps with reference images and such. I have my workflow here in the front end. It has a load image. It has an angle prompt. This is a LoRa for Quen image edit 2511, I believe. And then I have this output prefix over here. And this is my workflow JSON. I've exported it as an API export. And my string replacements are the output prefix for the file name, the image for the load image here, and then the angle. I need to change the angle here. So 45 degrees is what it defaults to. I use 90, 180, and 270. So my base image is the front, 90 degrees, right-hand side, 180 degrees, backside, 270, left side, and then I use those as my references. I don't do all those in one shot. So here's a quick peek at an app that I've been prototyping recently. Since I can't do the multiple images all in one go, I have to call this prompt multiple times. So in Python, I've just done a for loop. I go ahead and grab the angle and I multiply it by 90 degrees every single time. That gives me the right side, back side, left side view, with my base image being the front side view of the image. I have my list of string replacements here. I pull the template workflow JSON from disk, and then I actually do the replacements, and then I submit the prompt. So you can see I'm just sending an HTTP request. I'm checking the responses, and it's really pretty simple. I just return the prompt ID, and I use that to check the history point later. Okay, so let me go ahead and copy this, open Bruno, replace the prompt, do my string replacements here manually, and call this demo. Oh, what's the image I'm gonna send? Okay, I went to the output folder and I found the name of the panda output. I'm gonna do 90 degrees. Okay, here's a quick aside. The Quen image edit 2511 takes a crap load of VRAM, and right now I already have the Z image model loaded. But if I run this workflow using the API, it may not do very good memory management, which means I might run out of memory and the server's going to crash. So I find what I have to do is whenever I switch models, I have to do a post call to this free endpoint, and then in the body you tell it what you want to free. So I want to unload all the models from memory, and I want to free the cache as well. And you'll see here the GPU usage should drop significantly. Not sure what that spike was, but now we're back to a more reasonable level. So if I go back to here, not to here, and then I start it. Why didn't I like that? Oh, duh. Okay, so this image is in my outputs. I need to move this image to the inputs folder because that's where load image looks. Super dumb. It's not dumb, it's just particular. Okay, I've now got it copied into the inputs folder. You should see this memory requirement spike like crazy. Copy this. I'm going to go to the history for prompt. Start my manual polling, if you will. Although I don't really need to. I'm already kind of watching it here and in the terminal. And the generation is complete. So we can see in our assets, we've got a right-hand view, left-hand view, side view. We got a side view of our panda, which was here originally, and now it looks like that. At a quick glance, that looks pretty good. Our output from the view history is here. Let's go ahead and look for the outputs section. And you'll see, unlike the Z image workflow, this one actually came back with image bytes. So we could programmatically just grab this. We don't actually have to go to the view endpoint. These are the bytes you'd want to save. And there's a lot of them. You'll see here there's also the file name, no subfolder, yada, yada, yada. So again, we could just grab these image bytes already, but let's go ahead and go to the view image. This is the file I want to see. And there it is. And if I just keep on iterating on that, do the workflow again with a different angle, you can see how this could be pretty powerful if you script this, which is exactly what the API is meant to do. So there it is, ComfyUI's API for noobs by a noob. But I hope you found it interesting, I hope you learned something, and I hope you get to use it to make some cool stuff. So go on, go make stuff. But thanks for watching. I love that you stayed to the end.